What happens to a schizophrenic behaving oddly when he's encountered by police?
Frightened of hearing voices.
You're frightened of hearing voices. You got your tablets with you?
No.
You don't got your tablets?
No.
Undercover reporter Adam Holloway impersonates a schizophrenic to find out.
Pick your bag up.
In part 2 of his report on how the community cares for the mentally ill, Holloway continues his search for a place of safety.
Pick the bag up. I was just feeling a bit frightened.
Not being frightened of, is it?
Last week, Adam was in Birmingham. He'd been referred to Mayfield Court, a dilapidated private hotel run for the homeless mentally ill.
Why don't you get up, lad?
In the course of playing the part of a schizophrenic, I've been directed here by a local teaching hospital. As the social services department at Birmingham told us, it may be awful, but it's better than a cardboard box. The accelerated closure plan for mental hospitals means that Birmingham have to accept substandard accommodation like Mayfield Court for the mentally ill. Mayfield Court think I'm suffering from schizophrenia. Instead, they've got a reporter with a hidden camera investigating how the 75 residents living here are treated.
Most of the people here seem to be mentally a bit ill.
Mentally a bit ill?
Yeah. But you're not though. So why are you in here?
No, well, I've got brain damage. Yeah.
Oh, have you? Oh, right.
Because I got kicked down the stairs 3 years ago. I suppose, really, I am one of the same ones here.
So it is boring here, isn't it?
I feel most people seem to revolve around television, cups of tea.
If Mayfield Court were a registered mental home, it would have to provide substantially more medical help. But by calling it a hotel, the owner, Andrew Knight, need provide the minimum of care. In return for plugging the gap in Birmingham's care needs, he makes a handsome profit from the £120 in weekly state benefits he gets from each resident. There's nothing to do here but vegetate and succumb to one's own delusions. Like this man who endlessly tears paper.
Excuse me. Is that your job, doing the paper?
Or Archie, who stands all day in the same spot with his back to the wall.
Tell me the truth.
Or Eric, the schizophrenic who talks for his own voices.
How many times have you seen a doctor since you've been here?
I'm all right, I get by with that, actually, I'm all right. The doctor was all right, I'll get by. I'm really well, yeah.
Yeah.
You a social worker, are you?
No, I'm a resident.
Oh, I see.
Mayfield Court is owned by Andrew Knight, who could make, we estimate, tens of thousands in profit from the state benefits he's paid for taking in the mentally ill.
Do you like that car?
Huh?
Do you like that car?
Yes, I'm better.
Very expensive, I should think. Are you the doctor? I'm sorry? How often do you come here?
Oh, only when I'm asked to.
Do you think it's a nice place?
Who are you?
What?
Who are you?
I'm a resident. Do you think it's a nice place?
I wouldn't want to live here myself. Yeah, well, thank you, and I'll find out where you did.
Drugs are prescribed by visiting local doctors and administered by nurses on the staff. But few of the nurses, like Gary here, are fully qualified. When Gary turned up for a job at Mayfield Court 3 years ago, he was asked whether he wanted to be a nurse or the chef. He chose to be a nurse and now dispenses some very powerful drugs. There are nowhere near enough nurses to look after the 75 inmates at Mayfield Court. When Shirley falls off her wheelchair, it's left to another patient and me to pick her up.
How many nurses are there?
2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 at night. So, I'm a nurse. It says I'm a nurse. Yeah. 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 at night. I'm a lunatic.
The more elderly who are too ill live upstairs and are seldom seen.
How long have you been here for, love?
year.
In his place?
Yes.
Where were you before this?
Rubery Hospital.
Since when?
20 years.
What, since you were a little girl?
This is a shoestring operation, mental health care on the cheap, done with the very minimum of staff. The chronically ill often sleep in their day clothes because there's no one to look after them. Bare wires hang in a maze of corridors in a building with a history of 4 or 5 fires in the last 3 years.
How long have you been here?
Oh, 10 years ago now. I don't know.
Where were you before you came here?
The clay.
Many inmates were once in the long-stay Victorian mental hospitals. When these closed, the idea was to put their patients in small groups of sheltered accommodation with good medical care. It was called care in the community, but nowhere near enough money has been provided.
Right, love, how are you? Are you alright, dear? You alright? Yeah?
When the Community Care Act becomes statutory in April, an increasing number of local councils will have to resort to dumping patients in understaffed places like Mayfield Court.
Did she sit there all down her own?
Yeah.
Did she talk?
No, not very much.
It must be awful for her.
Yes.
When one of the younger inmates wanders off and begins playing with a knife in a shop, it's left to the police to bring him back to Mayfield Court.
All right. You brought your mate back. All right.
Do you do that a lot?
No, not really. No, just occasionally.
Hey, you know.
Hey, oh, your mate's here for you.
That's it.
Take care then.
Very much.
All right.
Right, young man.
What are you saying, that, Charlotte? You know what's going to happen next time, don't you? I'll have to come back. Prison. You know that, don't you? Well, don't do this anymore.
Do you think they would make you go to prison? Or do you think she was lying?
I've been here a week and I'm bored.
Excuse me, Mrs. Powell.
Yes.
Are you Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Is there any chance of doing some work? Because I'm feeling a bit bored.
We'll leave it till after lunch and I'll have a...
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, you can help us. You can help us clear the tables. Okay, Mrs. Powell. If you collect them, I'll show you where they go.
Shall I clear that for you?
A lot of the work is done by trustees, inmates who work for £8 a week. I decide to become a trustee.
This way up.
One of the privileges of being a trustee is bullying. The more mentally ill and older the targets.
Oh, shut up, Murray. I'll sit down.
Oh, I sit down all right.
You don't tell me what to do, I shall tell you.
What have you done?
Look at this.
I have.
She did that.
Where's the top of your skirt then?
Well,
That's it.
that's yours then, isn't it? You filthy thing, you.
Patricia has stubbed out a cigarette in a cake.
You're disgusting, you are.
That's terrible.
You really are disgusting.
Thank you, Nick. You won't take it back again. Oh, no. You're on your last check. Well, what did you do that for? Listen, you. There's people in this bloody world starving. And you do a thing like that, you should be shot. You're not worthy yet, £30. You're not, you know. You're horrible.
Pushing your luck, you are.
Next, Mrs. Powell, the manageress, joins in.
Try and keep away. Don't go by her, look, she's not worthy, she's filth. Nasty.
She put cigarette ends in these scones.
Yes, filth. But not just that as well, she's a filthy living. Keep away from her. Look. She's in the virus.
When Elizabeth asks for a cup of tea out of kitchen hours, a cleaner tells her she smells. Then she's pushed outside as well.
I'll get a cup of tea. Got a cup of tea, Barry.
Again, she's bullied when she's in the way of a handyman.
Do you usually push old ladies when they're in the way?
Excuse me, do you mind coming out of here?
Do you usually push old ladies when they're in the way? Do you? What are you, some kind of bully?
Come on.
Do you?
Pardon?
Do you usually push old ladies when they're in the way?
Just come out the way. You're not allowed in there.
We asked an independent psychiatrist posing as a relative to visit Mayfield Court and give her assessment of the medical care being provided here.
Hey? Oh, you're right there. I know that.
Right, it's dirty, there are very few staff around. The people here look uncared for, they don't look as though they've had much treatment for their illnesses. The majority of them have probably got some form of chronic mental illness such as schizophrenia. I should think some of them have probably got learning disabilities, which is what used to be called mental handicap.
With 75 people in here, how many nurses do you think would be a sort of appropriate number?
For adequate care, I would have thought you'd need probably about 10 nurses per shift, really. They wouldn't necessarily all have to be trained, but certainly sort of like, you know, probably 5 sort of decently trained nurses, and because it's clear that a lot of these people haven't had baths for ages.
Care in the community was meant to replace the old Victorian asylums, but it's precisely the people whose quality of life this modern policy was meant to improve who are suffering for it. Still acting out my role as a schizophrenic, I decide to confront Mrs. Powell, the manageress.
Everyone smells and people aren't looked after properly.
Come off it. They bath every day, even though they do smell. They still bath every day.
Well, why is it?
It's our business, not yours. Because everyone doesn't have to have attention.
No, is that because you run it like a business?
No.
What do you run it as then?
Well, I always think that caring.
Do you think 2 nurses on time is caring for people properly?
He's running this place down. You don't know what he's done. You want to be here a bit longer to find out what he's done here for them and what they have. Am I right now? This is a resident, aren't I right?
And it's boring here. There's nothing to do. There's no stimulation apart from watching television.
Well,
and the food's disgusting.
The food's disgusting?
Yes.
Well, I think you're rude and I think you are.
Oh, well, thank you. Bye-bye, love.
If you're a wandering schizophrenic, it's easy to fall through the care net in Birmingham. I've no GP, so I'm a non-person. I didn't last long in a hospital either, and I was bundled in and out to hostels and hotels like Mayfield Court, which are too bad to be officially sanctioned by the city's social service teams. In the end, people like me who are homeless as a result of mental problems usually gravitate to London. While living on the streets there last year, I formed the impression of a city whose social services were unable to cope. Let's see. After a stressful 2 weeks in a rundown mental home, and having just hitchhiked from Birmingham, a real schizophrenic would be desperate for medication, I looked for the nearest hospital at the bottom of the motorway in West London. Still acting out my role, I'm going to complain of hearing bizarre voices in my head, voices that urge me to look for a place of safety, which they call a hazard-free zone. The voices are being transmitted to me by electronic dust particles in the air.
I was feeling frightened and hearing voices.
You want to see a doctor tonight, do you?
Yeah, I think I should.
All right. You go up to the desk and you have to give in your name, your address, and the date of birth to the lady, and then the doctor will see you in a minute. All right?
Is this a hazard-free zone?
Yeah.
An HSZ?
Hmm?
An HSZ?
What's that?
Hazard-free zone.
Sure it is, yeah.
Within half an hour, I'm being seen by the duty psychiatrist. The system seems to be working here.
If you want to sit there, that's why I did put the chair. You can.
Do you want to have a seat, yeah?
How old are you, Ian? How old are you?
It's 27.
Right. And where do you live?
What's your address?
Variable.
Variable. Do you think anyone's trying to harm you?
Sometimes.
Who?
It's a telephonic network.
What are they trying to do?
I'm not sure.
How are they trying to hold
EDTs,
Right, let's see.
electronic dust particles.
What does that mean? How does it tell me?
Because they can know what I'm thinking.
How can they know what you're thinking?
From the particle.
Dust particles won't know what you're thinking.
They can tell people.
Sorry?
They can tell people.
Dust particles. Dust particles can't speak. How can they tell people?
Transmit.
Dust particles can't do anything.
They do.
How can you believe that dust particles can transmit things?
They do.
No, they don't.
They do.
They don't. All right, if you just go and wait in the waiting room, I'll get back to you. Okay.
Well, what are you going to do with me?
Well, I don't know. I'll get back to you in a few minutes.
I go back to the reception area and wait. The doctor appears to have forgotten me. After an hour, a nurse tells me the hospital can't help.
Then you go and see the police, and they will provide you a list of some accommodation for the evening, or they will arrange for you to get transport somewhere else.
Right, see the police.
Yeah.
Are they a hazard-free zone?
No, they will be able to give you a list of places that you can go and try and stay, hostels and such like. Because what we don't want is you sort of sleeping in here all night.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, because you can't stay here?
Yeah.
And you can't stay in the waiting room.
And can I have any treatment for my voices?
What did doctor say to you?
Nothing about that.
Well, she must tell you something, whether she's gonna treat you or whether you should go. She must say something to you.
This hospital is notorious for its lack of psychiatric bed space, and its young doctors on call can rarely find places for those at risk.
What we got you to, there's a place called Pound Lodge, which is got sort of rooms in there. Okay, the social services run. Okay, that's what it's called, Pound Lodge.
And where can I get some treatment?
Well, if you want to do that, if the voices carry on, then what you can do is register with a local GP.
Thank you very much.
I phoned Pound Lodge up and they said, fine, go along. It's right by the bus garage.
You looking for somewhere to stay, mate? Or?
Yeah, I'm getting there, I think.
Well, you wanna get in there now?
You want to get in there now, otherwise... Right.
At the government hostel, I find there's a major problem. They won't take me in until I've had hospital treatment. I'm in a catch-22 situation.
And the hospital shouldn't have sent me here.
Well, they should have done a bit more for you. I mean, they didn't give you any medication, did they?
No.
They did absolutely nothing for you, did they?
So these aren't good places for me to try and come in normally.
Well, like I said, unless you agree to get yourself treated, you have to need some type of medication.
Right, okay.
Yeah? See, we've got 90-odd people staying here, Ian, and we can't afford to have a bloke hearing voices in these heads. All right, you might be all right today, but we don't know what you're going to be like tomorrow. You have to agree to get medication and get yourself sorted out.
I've been trying to get medication.
Does the hospital know their suggested place of safety won't take in people who are mentally ill? I moved to Hackney. With 300% more schizophrenics in this borough than the national average, there should be help here.
What? No.
I impersonate a schizophrenic shouting at his voices in the street. Nothing happens. Are people used to this kind of thing here?
Where? Here. In here. Where then? Not in there. Yeah, no, yeah. Right.
To attract attention and get help, I begin taking off my clothes in the street. As a last resort, I try to get the police to section me using their powers under the Mental Health Act.
What? What's wrong?
The police have powers to take a mentally ill person to a place of safety, either a police station or a hospital.
Frightened and hearing voices.
You're frightened at hearing voices. You got your tablets with you?
No.
You've not got your tablets?
No.
No. Where do you live, local?
No.
No, where do you live? He's hearing voices, it's alright, yeah. Just have a look in your pockets just to make sure you haven't got anything you shouldn't have. Hang on, no, keep your hands out.
You doing nothing? What are you up to then, mate?
I was just feeling a bit frightened because I was...
Nothing to be frightened of, is it?
Well, I was hearing voices.
Alright, well go and hear the voices, put your stuff back on and go and hear your voices somewhere else, alright?
Pick your stuff up. Pick your stuff up. Pick it up. Pick it up and pick it up. Go away. Bye.
Are you a doctor? Do you know where I can find one?
What are you after, mate?
I was feeling frightened because of hazard-free zones in the gatekeeper.
The hazard-free zones. Well, don't go near them then, don't you? Keep away. Yeah?
Yeah.
Go up to Hackney Police Station.
What?
Ian. Listen, go up to Hackney Police Station, Ian, and they can sort you out, alright? Keep your clothes on, alright?
The friendly driver suggests I go to Hackney Police Station for help. Under Metropolitan Police rules, a police station can be designated a place of safety to mentally ill people at risk.
Is this a police station?
This is a police station, yes.
The man in the van, the police van, said I should come here because I was homeless and frightened and hearing voices. And he said if I wanted help, I should come to you.
You're homeless?
Yeah,
Can't do much about that, I'm afraid.
and I was frightened and hearing voices, and that's why he told me that if I wanted to, I could come here.
I don't know why he told you that. You're going to have to go to the council, see if they can put you up somewhere. Can't find anywhere for you. Okay?
Where are they?
I don't think they'll be open now, but there'll be an emergency number somewhere.
It's 11 p.m. Can the emergency section of Hackney Housing Department provide a place of safety? Well, that's the fourth Hackney emergency housing number I've tried. One of them was a fax, two of them aren't answering, and the fourth was unobtainable. So I guess I better go and join the others on the Strand or the Embankment.
No one knows how many of the people sleeping rough on the streets of our cities are mentally ill. Modern policies were meant to provide care for mentally ill people in the community through appropriate medical and housing facilities. My experience of this has been at best patchy. So, in the end, perhaps for thousands of people, a place of safety means a shop doorway, a cup of tea, and a sandwich.